What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the new Iron Mouse Sprite and letting you guys know if I think this sprite is good or worth using. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, comment down below what you think of the Iron Mouse Sprite, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So what the Iron Mouse Sprite does is once you are below 50 HP, and this is white health, shield is not taken into account at all, you will start to regenerate white health, and you will also get a cloak, like an invisibility aspect, and then also a low gravity effect while this regen is active. And at level 1, you will get 60 HP of regen, and this increases by 10 for every level. So 70 at level 2, 80 at level 3, 90 for level 4, and then 100 HP for level 5. And this doesn't mean the total you get to. It's not like you'll just go from 50 to 60 at level 1. It's the total amount of health, regen you get. So if you're at 50 or like basically below 50 HP, even with a level 1 Iron Mouse Sprite, you can get back up to 100 white health, which is pretty helpful. I actually had really high hopes for this sprite because in a close fight, if you and an opponent are trading damage back and forth, that little bit of, HP regen you get, as well as the invisibility and the low gravity effect, that could be a difference maker in those fights. There's a lot of fights in the game that, especially in zero build, end up with you and an opponent trading damage, and sometimes it becomes a bit of a damage race. And so any little thing you can do to get yourself a slight advantage in those moments can actually tip the tides of the fight in your favor. So regenerating a little bit of HP, that's nice. Going invisible, maybe you throw the opponent's aim off, and if they're a controller player, remove their aim assist for a bit. And then low gravity, maybe you jump a little bit, and the fact that your jump is more low gravity than what they expected throws them off a bit. So I thought it could really help in those, those fights that could go either way. And if you play, there's probably a good amount of fights that happen where, like, you win the fight, but you're pretty weak afterwards. And in those moments, maybe, sometimes you lose the fight, but the sprite would have helped you. So I thought it could be, pretty good. Unfortunately, there is a delay between hitting like below 50 HP and the effect starting. And so what this means is if an enemy is actively shooting you and you're below 50 health, you're probably going to be eliminated before any of these effects actually happen. And I fought a few people today who had it, and it didn't seem like it was doing anything for them because I was actively damaging them the entire time. And then same thing, like I said, there's a delay starting. The invisibility, it's not like you immediately go invisible. Like with the Ghost Sprite, the moment you start reloading, the exact moment, there's no animation, there's no delay, the exact moment you start to reload, you go invisible, and you can use that to your, advantage in a fight. But with this Iron Mouse Sprite, you get below 50, there's a bit of a delay and a bit of an animation and like a black cloud that kind of spawns on your character, and then you go invisible. And like I said, in most fights, if the fight is actively going on, you are going to be dead before any of this stuff actually starts to benefit you. So it doesn't really help in fights in the way that I thought it would, or the way that I had hoped it would. It's something that really can only take into effect after the fight has happened, or if there's some sort of break in the fight. Like if you're already running from somebody and then you get below 50, but they're not actively like consistently damaging you because you're using mobility, then that bit of HP regen maybe helps you out. That bit of invisibility maybe helps you out. The low gravity obviously helps you run more. If you were getting shot and then get to a piece of cover, like maybe it comes into play there, but like very specific moments or very specific things have to happen for this to actually be useful in a fight. I feel like it's mostly going to be useful in situations where you're actively running away from an enemy. Also, on top of the whole like fighting thing, if you shoot, you lose your invisibility. And this is how invisibility normally works in Fortnite, but I thought you would lose it and then maybe it would come back, But it just like seems like you only get one invisibility, effect until you take damage again and start the whole process over again. So it's not something you can really abuse in that way. But like I said, this is mostly going to be useful for like running away from fights, I think, if you're trying to and that makes sense kind of with what it does. You get health regen, you get a bit of invisibility, you also get low gravity. That's a combo that sounds really good for running away from fights, or, escaping situations that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. It's not like you're intentionally trying to run away, but there's fights where you run away in Fortnite. I think that's where the sprite is actually going to be most helpful because of the delay that happens. If the fight is actively going on, once you get below 50, you're probably going to be dead before any of this stuff even starts to take place. Another time where it could maybe be useful is obviously going to be potential third parties. Like, let's say you win a fight and it was a close fight, and then you're left with below 50 health left, then sure, at that point, the regen, you know, helps you get back to full HP faster. And if you have something like a Chug Jug and this regen at the same time, you're going to get your white health back incredibly quick and save some of the effect save some of the, like, the quantity that the Chug Jug would have, you know. That invisibility maybe makes it a little bit harder for people who are trying to third party the fight to know exactly where you are. And so I think it's pretty straightforward how this would help potentially get third partied less after, you know, a fight happens that maybe could have gone either way. But overall, like I said, I had high hopes for it. I thought that, like, maybe it could turn the tide of a fight, but with how the delay is, I don't think it's a good fighting sprite, and it's more of just, you know, for resetting fights or healing up after a fight. And when we look at the effects of sprites that do that already, the Pollo sprite, you know, gives you shield siphon once you get an elimination. The demon sprite gives you siphon once you get an elimination. This is once you get under a certain HP threshold. But if I was to pick a sprite for, you know, healing after a fight to potentially get third party left, I think my preferred choice would be the demon sprite or the Pollo sprite, definitely over this one. But I do kind of prioritize shield healing more than white health healing in most situations. I also just think the rate at the healing, like the fact that it didn't need to be a super close fight for it to benefit you with the demon or Pollo, I think is also beneficial, because a lot of fights don't, you know, they don't get to the point where you're that weak. You might take 100 damage in a fight, and in that moment, the Iron Mouse Sprite wouldn't help you at all, but like Pollo would and demon would. So I think even amongst healing sprites, this really isn't the greatest. And so if you were going to pick something based on, like, I want to heal quickly after a fight, I think one of those other two are the best. And then when you look at kind of the whole hierarchy of sprites, when it comes down to helping you win fights in zero build, I think the boss sprite and the ghost sprite, then probably the air sprite, are probably going to be the top three for that as well. Maybe aura in there as well. You know, you can get your dashes back. But yeah, I like I've said a few times, my hopes were high. I was pretty disappointed with this sprite. I'd probably put it at like B tier or something like that. I don't think it's top tier. I think there's better sprites for the job it does. And when it comes down to picking your sprite in game, you can only have one, so they all are kind of actively competing against each other in that way. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. He's got the mythic Warforged, I think. Thing. He used that well. I wanted to, like, try to shoot him and make him fall when he web shot, because you take fall damage now. How can you tell it was mythic? It sounded like it was, like, starting to shoot faster. Like, the mythic Warforged shoots faster over time.